So, a viewer, Men Among the Ruins, asks, what do you think about coronavirus? So, let's look at the spectrum of possibilities. Going from the most extreme to the least extreme. The least extreme is it's just the flu, nothing happens. The most extreme is it wipes out all of humanity, maybe all life on the planet. Maybe it reduces this earth to a molten rock covered in cold stone crust, floating through the empty space of our lifeless galaxy. Those are, I guess, the two extremes. Now, if you ever studied mathematical models concerning population growth and decay, you'll be familiar with this term steady state. Steady state essentially refers to an equation with multiple variables where you have a death rate and a birth rate, and given certain parameters, you reach a steady state. With coronavirus, it's not death and birth, it's how quickly do you catch it, how quickly does it spread, and then how quickly can you cure it, or alternatively, how quickly do you cure yourself of it or build up a resistance to it, herd immunity, vaccines, how quickly do you recover, etc., etc. So people have been saying ever since this thing got started, oh, China just implemented this, that's going to stop the virus, or they just shut down the schools, that will stop the virus, or they brought out new testing kits, that'll stop the virus, or when summer comes, that'll stop the virus. So every day I hear some kind of new proposition of how the virus is going to disappear tomorrow because of some new reason, implementation, environmental factor, whatever. I've been hearing this. And each time it doesn't necessarily seem to pan out. We also have to consider the fact that this is no longer a pandemic. Pandemic means it's a global virus. It's actually endemic, meaning that the rate of infection is different for different countries. Effectively, the virus is acting differently in different countries, not because it's a different strain, but just because the environment in which the virus is situated is different. So the Italians are treating the virus differently than Americans, differently from Chinese, differently from South Koreans. So every country has a different sort of birth and death rate for this virus. I've seen certain models that basically take the Chinese rate of infection or the Italian rate of infection and map that onto where America is and say, oh, well, we're in the early stages, and in a few days or a few weeks or a few months, will be exactly where China or Italy or these other countries are. So that certainly seems to be not just possible, but likely that we're just going to sort of follow in the footsteps of China. We're going to follow in the footsteps of Italy. A lot of people have been speculating about the causes of the virus. Was this virus entirely organic? We're at a point in human history where our knowledge of viruses and our ability to work with viruses and to experiment with mutations of viruses and the combinatory biology of viruses has gotten to the point where it's not entirely clear to me where organic life ends and artificial life begins. That is, human governments have been experimenting with viruses for a very long time, and ideas about, well, maybe where did AIDS come from, or where did any of these viruses come from, or not necessarily a virus, whatever it is, any kind of disease or pathogen, where did it originate from? This can go deeper into, why is our food bad for us? Why do people smoke cigarettes? Why did the government promote that? So asking the why question, or cui bono, who benefits, what's the purpose behind this, it's not quite clear, and I'm not sure we'll ever know. In the same way, I don't think we're ever going to know as a general public exactly what happened with, say, the Las Vegas shooting. Maybe it was just a random guy who decided to shoot a bunch of people. That is, I guess, what is I don't know, there is really no narrative. There was no narrative that was being pushed strongly. It was just like, well, we don't know. There was a hard drive. It was empty. There was a note. Nothing was written on it. Don't worry about it. Nothing going on here. We're just going to seal all the evidence and not allow anyone to see anything. Any comment? No comment. So we're sort of maybe in a situation like that where, again, I don't know what the cause of this is. However, what I do know at the very least is that it affects the elderly more so than young people. And that is interesting because probably one of the biggest demographic crises identified by the billionaire class is this growing group of the elderly, because the elderly do not produce, the elderly do not stimulate the economy as much as young people necessarily. I suppose the best group from a capitalist point of view are people who are no longer having kids. They're no longer in education. They're just working. They're working. They do what they do best. They found their niche and they're working, but they haven't yet retired. When you retire, what old people do when they retire is they buy their dream house and they live in their dream house, and you ask them what they do and they walk out on the porch and they read the newspaper and they watch the news and they talk to their friends. And old people don't really stimulate the economy very much, but they are a huge drain upon the economy in terms of health services. About 90% of all the money, people ask, why is healthcare so expensive? It's because 90% of all the money, trillions of dollars spent in healthcare, goes toward the elderly in the last 6 months of life. So it's like you're about to die. Maybe it's heart disease, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's something else, maybe it's some rare incurable disease in the last 6 months. That's where these trillions of dollars are spent, not helping young people. This whole healthcare debate has now become more and more important with the coronavirus of what are we going to do, how are we going to tackle the virus. Clearly, just letting the market decide is not necessarily going to be the best idea, although if you're just kind of a libertarian, you'd say, let the virus run wild and the market will decide. Well, you can say that. It doesn't mean that, I don't know, it doesn't mean that anyone is going to follow your prescription there, that Randian objectivist prescription. But in any case, when we look at this issue, for instance, in Japan has this shrinking population, but the proportion of the elderly is growing. What do you do with that from an economic point of view? Do you completely devote the entire economy to servicing the needs and health concerns of the elderly? Is that the way that you go? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, because in one sense there's like a Keynesian element where any economic activity is good, and so if there are these old people and they need you to take care of them, I guess in a way that is economic activity. There is wealth that is being, but not necessarily being generated. It's just you have people with problems and we're just dumping trillions of dollars into the last 6 months of life trying to save them, or trying to make them comfortable, or trying to ameliorate their manifold diseases with 26 different pills that they take at 50 different times of the day or whatever. That sort of procedural dumping of capital and resources and attention, is that really the best thing for the billionaire class? Or would the billionaire class benefit more if people were taking vacations and doing tourism, which older people do as well, but and building things and getting more into entertainment? Or what kind of sector of the FIRE economy is best for them in terms of productivity and ultimately in terms of warfare? Because GDP, really at the end of the day, when you question why do we worship the GDP, what's so important about the GDP, is that ultimately your GDP does correlate with your ability to marshal resources toward a war effort. Germany in 2 world wars underestimated this equation. They looked at the United States, they said the United States is a pathetic military. And that was the case in 1916, and that was the case in 1938, or a little bit, but I would say 1932 at least, before Roosevelt came in. Roosevelt did start to rebuild the military to an extent, especially the Navy. Of course, the Army was always behind. But you look at the United States military, and it's not very impressive, and that's true today. That's true in 2020. The United States military is not that impressive. I don't think anyone's really impressed by the United States military right now. I think actually it's quite a mess. I think actually, if you're realistic, you're going to agree with that on a number of levels. But when America goes into war, what it does is it becomes an authoritarian state. Free speech is suspended. This happens in every war. They never tell you about this in history books. They won't tell you about this in public school, but every time they suspend freedom of speech, they throw political dissidents in jail. Anyone who protests against the war goes straight to jail, or anyone who's effective at it. And, this is a serious war, right? This is not like a proxy war like Iraq, Afghanistan. This is like a serious war, like a world war. And so all civil liberties are suspended. Democracy is suspended. FDR has 3 terms. You completely restructure the government around warfare. And it's very effective at marshaling this GDP. So, you need GDP. Is having a bunch of old people in your population, is that going to help you fight and win wars? At some point, I guess the question is, if you have a country that the entire economy is built around servicing old people, how is that going to fare when you have a World War type scenario, which we've been having world wars for a very long time. Alexander the Great fought a world war. He fought against Egypt, he fought against India, he fought against Afghanistan, he fought against Persia, he fought against the Greeks, he fought in Europe, Africa, and Asia. It was a tri-continental war. And we've had many world wars since then. We've had the Napoleonic Wars were fought on the American continent. The American Revolutionary War, you could say, was a part of a broader, Franco-British conflict that spanned the 18th and early 19th centuries. There was battles going on in India at the time. So global warfare is a very old thing, and it happens sort of perpetually. As the nature of warfare changes, I think it's very important to note that war is becoming more and more mercantile. It's becoming more technical. It's becoming more technological. It's becoming more expertise-based rather than warrior-based and violence-based. It's becoming more about, do you have the technical resources to utilize this technology in a quantitative way, to make this many bombs and this many guns and this many tanks? And now it's cyber warfare, and now it's gene editing, and now it's drone warfare, and now it's AI. And so it seems we're pushing more and more in that direction. So I guess this question of, how much of a hindrance is having an economy built around servicing old people? How much of a hindrance is that in a time of war? We haven't yet quite tested that, and we haven't even reached the end of this demographic inflation, you might call it, where the oldest portion of the demographic pyramid is sort of turning upside down, where we're having more old people and less young people. So it's never really been done before in history. You have 2 trends where the West, on the one hand, is weakening due to its aging population, but at the same time it's strengthening because it's becoming wealthier and wealthier, even though poor working people make less and less money. And the socialists are correct to point that out. But the United States military is getting more and more powerful, more strong in its potentiality, even if its actuality is not too great. If we kicked into a wartime scenario, I'm confident that we could repeat the miracle of World War I and World War II. So you've got these 2 sort of competing trends, sort of an immovable object and an unstoppable force, and they're meeting each other, and we don't know how that's going to pan out. But one of the factors of something like a coronavirus, and again, I don't know if the coronavirus is going to disappear by summer. I don't know if it's going to get out of control. But the fact that it does target old people to an extent is interesting. And it does suggest a very morbid alternative to the current demographic trends, this aging of populations. If you have something like the coronavirus, which essentially really doesn't have a death rate above 1% if you're under the age of 50, whereas you start to get in 50, 60, 70, 80, all of a sudden that death rate is shooting up to 10 and 20 and 30 and 40%. If you can engineer a virus like that, not saying that I would or that I should or that I could or that anyone should, would, or could. Well, actually, there is someone who could, and that's these global governments. And these global governments could engineer such a virus, even if they don't necessarily physically engineer the genetics of it. They could sort of push it along. They might encourage it, or instead of stopping it, they might, raise their hands and say, oh, well, we're going to have a libertarian attitude. We can't hurt the economy, right? We can't actually shut down business. That would hurt the economy. So we're going to let the virus take its course. And if millions and millions of old people die, that would be a tragedy for many grandchildren who lose their grandparents. But it would certainly affect our demographic pyramid. So I don't know if anyone has been really talking about that too much. It is a very morbid topic, but it is interesting to see a virus that's not targeting young people. It's not targeting, usually like a flu, you say, well, it targets like the young and it targets the old. This one doesn't seem to be targeting the young. It seems to just be targeting the old, which is interesting. And I don't think this virus is going to collapse civilization. I think the worst that could happen is with the economy crashes. That's going to have bad results if that happens. It hasn't quite happened yet. If it did, here's the way I see the economy crashing. We haven't had a correction in 12 years now, since 2008. So we're due for a correction. The coronavirus is a good excuse. And so maybe people are blowing it out of proportion. I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. But it's possible that people are blowing it out of proportion as an excuse to say, let's just blow up the economy because we need to have a correction. It's necessary if you understand the boom-bust cycle, libertarian stuff. We have to have a correction. There's no alternative. We can't just keep going with this infinite growth. At some point, we have to it's bulking and cutting. At some point, we're going to have to let these weak companies die that can't survive. And the way to do that is to have a big recession. So they're using the coronavirus perhaps as an excuse. And the result of that will be harsh for certain people if that does come to pass. I mean, we're going to have some correction here. Whether it's small or big, again, I don't know. But I would advise people get out of the stock market if you're still in it. I had been advising people privately. I guess I'm not like a CPA. I'm not a licensed accountant or something, so I don't have the legal authority to do that. But I was theoretically, hypothetically telling people to get their money out of the market, and some people listened and some people didn't. But that it's just not. I mean, people saying buy the dip. It's like, buy a lottery ticket, go gambling or something. You can make a lot of money. You can make millions. And if you're very smart and you treat it as a full-time job and you really invested in it, not just financially, but mentally and almost physically, like you have to be glued to the screen watching the numbers basically and be really plugged in nepotistically to the, not to the point where it's illegal with insider trading, but you need to be part of sort of an investment group, people who know what's up, who can kind of give you some insight into the market. So it's a full-time job if you're going to do that, if you're going to buy the dip and sell and buy and sell. And you can make money through that sort of speculation, which, of course, it's not actually like investing in the real sense of, oh, I'm going to give Bill a loan of $50 so that he can build a lemonade stand and make $100 and thus increase the value of the share of the stock that I bought. And thus, this is how the economy grows. Now, of course, at that point, you're just basically parasiting off the economy in an intelligent way. And if you can do that, I mean, there are going to be some people who do that. Rich people are going to make money in a recession. The richest, most powerful people tend to do well in recessions. They pretty much do well in every economy. But most people can't do that. So the economic effect, I think, is the biggest thing to me. And I don't necessarily know that the coronavirus even caused the economic effects that we're seeing right now. For instance, the oil price drop. really doesn't have anything to do with coronavirus. It's an excuse. It's sort of a coincidental moment of like, well, the economy's crashing anyway, so let's just burn it all out. Kind of like burn the dry leaves in the forest, let the forest fire rage, and then we'll have the fresh spring and start from zero and get back on track. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it. Let's taking a look at the chat. This could get pretty bad with a social distancing policy, probably will also lead to long-term stagnation. Yeah, the question is, how long-term will it be? Will it end in summer? Summer is a few months away, so we might have some time to go if it's summer. I think the virus probably has at least a few months left in it, if not more. I had this same thought. You're supporting the argument that babies and raising children is too expensive. I'm not sure I said that. I'm not sure where you're going with this, but it seems it's the argument of technocrat rather than a whole issues thinker. Don't become old, best economy low. I don't know what any of that means, to be honest. It can get expensive to raise and provide for a child to have many opportunities. The 7 Years' War, French and Indian. Yes, that was part of a global Franco-British conflict. There was a time not long ago where the elderly were more physically fit than their offspring. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Your term aging is limited to the current times. Previously, the elderly died if they could keep up. I'm not sure you're writing what you mean to write. My own university has been infected. I'm expecting an outbreak and quarantine. Yeah, the whole university thing in the school system is very interesting. I would love to get some insight into what's happening in these countries, especially like Italy, a Western country where they just shut down the schools. Like, what do young people do? Because to me, schools and education is just a form of daycare for people who otherwise would be home, like on the computer, doing nothing. And it's a vehicle of socializing people, and I think that's important. And so if you do shut down the schools, it's going to open this can of worms of like, maybe we don't need to socialize people anymore. And that's going to lead to a huge generational gap. If we make that shift of, oh, we don't need to socialize kids, we'll just teach them on the internet, it's going to lead to like a generational gap like you've never seen before. People think that the Gen Z versus Boomer gap is big. You've seen nothing. If we go to a full online digital, because there are certain individuals who will do these online courses for education, and they'll say, oh, well, I'm not a weirdo, I'm not a freak, I have friends, I'm a normal person. But if you have the entire society, it's called the principle of threshold, right? So if you have 99 people who are all socialized, and then you have one person who's absent from the process of socialization, but enters into that room of 99 people, that person will quickly become socialized. Versus if you have 99 people who are not socialized, and then you add someone who's not socialized, they're just going to feed off each other's awkwardness. And the socialization process can't happen anymore. You kind of get like a social death collectively. And that would be, I mean, again, people think like the internet's weird, like, Zoomers are weird and boomers can't understand them. And obviously boomers are more social and charismatic and extroverted. And, young people are having less romance in their lives. And they're, all these trends, we see them. But I think if you ended the schools or started introducing, like K through 12, started introducing more online courses collectively, if you do it on a collective threshold level, that's going to be a big, big change in how people think. Capitalism runs array, I think you mean awry, when resources are limited. I think resources are always limited. It's been talked about, for instance, what would be the rationale for immigration if the elderly no longer exist? I'm sure that a rationale would be thought up because it is an economic stimulus. I don't want my dad to die from illness. That's reasonable. I don't want your dad to die either. I'm just sort of talking about my thoughts about the coronavirus in terms of, what possible effects it might have. It's not just killing everybody. It's specifically targeting the elderly. Whether that's just a random coincidence or something else, I don't know. But when that occurs, I mean, this is funny. If I state an objective fact, like the coronavirus is objectively targeting old people, I get comments like Kenneth doesn't like his elders. What? Kenneth doesn't like his elders because I've stated an objective fact about a coronavirus. You want me to lie to you? You want me to say, "Oh no, your grandparents are fine. Go ahead and go to the supermarket, lick all the knobs, lick all the doorknobs, and then give your grandparents hugs and kisses, and don't worry about a thing." Is that the thing? Is that the nice thing to the grandparents to do that? I don't know. It's a very weird thing. Kenneth didn't participate in the stock market. I don't, but I know people who do, and I mean, it's like, for some reason, I don't know why, but since 2014, I've been predicting a recession, and every year I say it's right around the corner. It's right around the corner, and I've been wrong for 6 years. And had I invested for the last 6 years, I would have done very well. Just investing in anything, just like randomly throwing money at the stock market, anything, doesn't really matter. Like just any big corporation, Apple, Google, Amazon, Disney, just any big corporation, I would have made money. But I didn't do that because I said the recession has to come. It's due in 2014. And then 2015 came, and I was like, well, it's going to happen in 2015. They dragged it on with the quantitative easing. 2016 came, and I said, well, the elections in 2016, it'll happen for Trump. Bill Maher's predicting it. Then 2017, I was like, well, maybe they're going to wait till after the war with Iran to do it. And then 2018 came, and I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. This recession has to come. Like every time it didn't come, I became more convinced it was coming. And then 2019 came. By 2019, I was like, okay, I am very stupid for not investing in the stock market. I have been totally wrong this whole time. I've missed out. But it's too late. Now it's 2019. It's kind of like the opposite of FOMO, like FOMO, fear of missing out, where you're like, oh no, I have to invest because if I don't invest, I'll miss all this money. It's like every time I was like, okay, the recession hasn't come, but because it hasn't come, I'm like doubling down on my bias confirmation, saying because it didn't come this year, like there was a 50-50 chance of it happening in 2014, so that increased to 60 and 70, 80 and 90, and now it's like a 99% chance it's got to happen this year. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the corona thing will blow over and we'll get to a point with it where it's not so important and the economy keeps going great. And maybe I will just continue to have a huge opportunity cost in not investing. But that's been my attitude for the last 6 years. If my old man got the virus, I would not forget those responsible. I'm not sure who is responsible. Perhaps Trump. Birds of a feather will always flock together. Very mysterious. COVID-19, a patricidal triumph. Is reading the chat your favorite part of the stream? It's an integral part of the stream. It's very hard to do a stream and not read the chat. Originators of the Wuhan bioweapon. When a fire burns through a forest, the new sprouts burn. The old trees with deep roots survive. Then and only then do new sprouts of species move in to replenish and utilize the soil. Oh, that's interesting. So my metaphor was wrong. So my metaphor was bad, but you understood the point, right? They're going to shut us in our rooms and bring classes online. Like you say, a main reason I'm pursuing education is to get connections. Yes, this is the billionaire class trying to destroy the middle class again for the millionth time by destroying your ability to make connections. They want you to be depressed. They want you to be socially awkward. They want you to be afraid to talk to people and make connections. They want you to be afraid to meet people and make connections. They want to be afraid of all this because their wealth is based off their connections. It's based off nepotism. It's based off legalism. Bill Gates made his money through copyright. Disney makes all their money through copyright. The entire music industry is based on copyright. These are legalistic connections. These are legalistic privileges. We know that the legal system is not dependent on right or wrong, objective fact. It's dependent on how much money can you throw at a lawyer. Do you know a lawyer? Are you connected with the law system? Do you know the laws? Do you know how to abuse the laws? Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, not because he invented the idea of a social network, but because he stole it from other people and was successfully able to copyright it and defend his claim. He kind of created his little castle, or he invaded the castle. He became king of the hill. And then he used his legal team and his legal connections and his connections with the government, frankly. All these people, the MAGA corporations, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Apple, they are all semi-governmental corporations. They have to be, because Google Earth, for example, has satellites that are scanning all these different parts of the Earth. That's a government operation. They have to coordinate with intelligence because it's like a spy operation, you know. They have to coordinate to make sure that they're not taking pictures of something the government doesn't want them to take pictures of. So they're essentially an arm of the government. The MAGA corporations are independent, sort of in the same way the FBI or the CIA is a semi-autonomous branch of government at this point. So are the MAGA corporations. And yeah, this is the coronavirus is a huge opportunity for them to take advantage of. And I don't know what good can come out of it for the average person. I see a lot of benefits for the billionaire class, but I'm not sure that the average person is going to benefit in any way. I guess the preppers are always waiting for the collapse. I don't think the preppers are going to succeed. I don't think the canned food is going to help you. I think even China, where it's been the worst, nowhere has it been worse than China. I still don't think the Chinese are starving. I still don't think that, I think that they're delivering food door to door. You know, they're not allowing people to starve in China. And I don't think they're going to allow people to starve in America. I mean, we have socialized food services, we have food stamps, we have soup kitchens. You know, this infrastructure already exists for the government to pump money into it and to distribute food. So I don't think anyone's going to starve. I mean, I'm not hating on people who have canned food. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I don't think anyone needs canned food. Of course, that's my bias because I don't have a cellar full of canned food. People who do, doesn't hurt to have supplies or whatever. If you're settled in an area and you have a cellar full of canned food and hazmat suits and everything like that, that's fine. That's awesome. Interesting point by Iramanrik Gautam says that my viewership will increase tenfold. That is an interesting effect that the internet, in the case that everyone becomes a shut-in and we're all isolated indoors, the internet's going to see some sort of a rise in importance. That probably will translate into every content creator getting more views, just sort of an inflation of views. You know, if you had 10 views, it's 100. If you had 100, it's 1,000, 1,000, 10,000, and so on and so forth, that these things just sort of increase exponentially because people don't have anything else to do. In many ways, the internet is a replacement for external social realities that are now internalized into the screen, into the phone, into the computer. So that is an interesting effect of it. It could have a certain polarized, abstracting political, ideological effect. People are less social. People are more likely to become more cerebral about the world. They don't have the sort of mythic, personalized, soulful connection with their fellow human beings, so they understand the world through a very cerebral, intellectual, ideological narrative of the world that's supposed to be rational and make sense. It was the plan all along. Education online from home, studied it at Vancouver. A beneficial side effect is that this audience will grow. I don't know if it's that beneficial that my audience grows. I sort of like this as a hobby. To me, it's like reading a book. You know, some people, they sit down at the end of the day, they crack open a book and they start reading. And I can appreciate that because I used to like that until the internet came along and kind of fried my brain. And now the thing I like to do, my hobby, is I like to make videos, and I find it engaging when there's an audience. And so I'm just happy to have my little audience of like 34 people or whatever it is. And it's kind of been this way for a while. I remember quite a while ago, I had one video, I've taken it down since, but I had one video that had like 4,000 viewers. And I've had videos shoot up to 1,000 views in the past, and all of those have had to be taken down for you just precautionary reasons with YouTube. But I've had that limited success, and I sort of have fallen and stagnated to my own stable, steady state. So if I had 10 times the viewership, if I had like 300 live viewers, and if I had 6,000 views instead of 600, would that really be beneficial to me? Would that really increase my enjoyment of this hobby? Or would it create more friction and stress and pressure, and more of these comments? Like, I saw those comments when I had a discussion on philosophy, and they're all like these very sexualized comments. Very weird. So I 10 times more of that. No, thank you. No, thank you, sir. Kenneth flexing financial knowledge. I don't have a lot of knowledge. If I had a lot of knowledge, I would have been invested for the last 4 to 6 years, and I would have made a lot of money. My knowledge is zero, so I have not made any money, but I have speculations. I have inklings, and I follow my inklings for better or for worse. Let's get Nate O'Brien on here. I don't know who that is. The point of being undead is that you don't die. Okay. Chinese elderly community in Italy was devastated because grandchildren were sent home from school to be looked after by their GPs. Don't know what GP stands for. If you want to grow, you need to like the video, says Admiral Murat. Screw culture. Let's all get rich. Yeah. Shouldn't this have been expected? Now you're talking. There are a few things more evil than copyright in its current form. CIA, FBI, average person benefits by having this knowledge. Then they can decide. The benefit, the benefit of knowledge, the knowledge of good and evil. Is it truly a benefit if you can't do anything with it? Can we do anything with it? That is the question. But maybe at some point, knowledge is power. By having this knowledge, eventually, maybe we can break out of some of these prisons that we find ourselves in and go into something beyond. That is the hope. MAGA Corp. Intellectual property is the new field of Faustian expansion, carved up and territorialized by the few ambitious lords. I wouldn't necessarily call it Faustian. I actually think feudalism is opposite to Faustianism in many ways. So I would disagree with you there. Talking about people shut in, I'd be interested in a poll of your viewers with their background. Hey, you know what? I don't think I am going to poll my viewers. I think I'm just going to let my viewers be private, and I think that's the way it should be. But yeah, I mean, you can guess. I mean, by the comments, you can literally, there are tests, vocabulary tests that are an approximation for like IQ and SAT, like all of these G-loaded tests. You can create statistical equivalences that are not perfect, but they have some significance. Like, you could literally just run a program on the live chat and my comments and say, okay, this person's writing at a 12th grade level, this is an 8th grade level, so on and so forth. And you could get an estimate for the average age and the average educational background. Of course, YouTube is spying on you. When I talk right now, my phone listens to what I say. I've tested this many times. It's disturbing. And I go to YouTube and I see videos that are pertaining to topics I've recently talked about that, I've never seen these videos before. It's very clear. It's very obvious. So YouTube knows exactly who you are. It knows everything you've said privately. It knows when you're in the car and you get angry at someone, you start yelling slurs at that person. It's recorded your slurs, and it's been downloaded to Apple or Google or whatever phone you have. And they know everything about you. They know more than your parents and your friends and your family. They know everything about you. They know more about you than you know about you. They know when you're going to be sick. They know who you're going to marry. They know it all. So this is already known stuff. This is already known information. I don't think it's that interesting. I don't really want to dissect my viewership. I don't want to engage with my viewership as like a quantity mass. I like engaging with people as individuals, as qualitatively interesting people who bring new ideas, and where we can have disagreements. I don't want like a block mass that's like agrees with everything I say. It's very boring. That's an echo chamber. At that point, why even do YouTube? I should just, turn off the camera and talk to a wall, and listen to the echo come back into my ears, and then I could be and just watch my own videos. That's why I take my videos down, because in some ways I don't like seeing these old videos. I like producing videos. I don't like the existence of the video itself. I like the transmission, the sort of when the light bounces from me to you. That's the process that I enjoy, not like the solidification, this concrete structure, this gnarled system of elderly videos. That's not what I enjoy. 4,000 views, which one? Yes, it was indeed that one. I get demodded thanks to that discussion. Yes, you did. No regrets. Yeah, well, that was very disrespectful. I mean, there was a lot of people doing it. So that's the hive mind effect, when everybody's getting disrespectful. There are some scientists suggesting COVID-19 could affect male fertility. Yeah, I've heard that as well, and I've heard the idea that it's similar to an STD. So I didn't even cover that, the fact that it could lead to a global decline in fertility, which of course I've been predicting for a very long time now. It's nothing new. It's a mainstream theory. Ken drinks a whole Delsim bottle. I don't know what a Delsim bottle is, but hydration is always good. I do have a GTS Synergy kombucha bottle that I have some water in here. Oh, that didn't have much water at all. Let's go for the backup number 2. Always have a backup, folks. Never be unprepared, especially you always need extra bottles of water. I got 100 of these stocked up. Everyone has all this extra toilet paper, but you understand that when civilization collapses, not only are you not going to have toilet paper, you're also not going to have running water. And so your toilet's not going to work unless you have water stored up. So all these people buying toilet paper and they don't have extra water, they think like the toilet is magical and it just runs itself. Now you need water to make it work. So, the toilet paper thing is funny, but I thought these search result recordings were a myth. They are not a myth. They are absolutely true. Creating a small block of followers with high integrity and capability is more enjoyable and beneficial, at least with most people. Yeah, I mean, I understand people who are doing it for the money and they just want a big audience, and so they just produce mass content and they have a mass following. I understand that. I don't think I'm actually capable of that. I think like that to me is boring, and what I enjoy about YouTube is it's zany and new and fun and exciting and creative and artistic, and making this into like a corporate job where I come in and give you like some cookie cutter, like today we're going to have like flashy news and it's going to be the same thing every time. Like I've tested the waters there. I think people have not enjoyed that. I don't think I've enjoyed that. And maybe, of course, we can always go back to it, but I think there's certain people who are sort of born for that. There are people who are just sort of born to be like a cookie cutter, like today's news is blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk about it. And there's plenty of people like this. It's not just the one you're thinking of. There's many people like this, and they're very good at it. And I just don't think I have that, but I do have this like weird obsession with being outside the box. That does not translate into financial success. Woo! This is a piece of crap, by the way. Never buy this. This like attachment here, it doesn't work. It's not fitted at all to my microphone. I bought these together. They said, "Oh, do you want to buy these together on Amazon?" I said, "Sure, I'll buy them both together. That way I know they'll like fit together." And then it's the opposite. It's like, "Oh, we're gonna bundle 2 random products together." Thank you, Amazon. Thank you, government. Thank you, government, corporate, Amazon. I'm getting frustrated, you can tell. I just tightened this before the stream as well. I said, I don't want this to be loose anymore. I'm going to tighten it. And then it just pops off on me. Very unprofessional. You can't talk about actual juice from fruits. I can talk about juice. It's tasty, but not the best thing for you. Oh no, you know what? I realized I left my juice out. I gotta grab some juice. I'll do that. I guess I have to end the stream now. I left the juice out. It's not technically juice. It's my probiotic drink or whatever. This is why I disable everything, delete accounts, communicate through multiple proxies. It's still not enough. Yeah, it's never enough because you have a router, and your router collects all this information with your, if you have, I don't know who you have as your internet provider, but your internet provider has everything. It doesn't matter how many proxies, you go through at some point, like everything is tracked. And there's no way to get around it. And actually, the more you try to get around it, the more they put flags on you to track you because they think you're hiding something, so they pay attention. If you don't want them to pay attention, just don't even try. Of course, that's ironic. Of course, like proxies do work to an extent. They do make it more difficult for people to track you. I don't discourage proxies. So it's interesting. Would you be scared to go to a job interview for Google? Well, it'd be very similar to interviewing for like the FBI. Like they would do a pretty thorough background check on you. So it would be interesting. Of course, I'd have nothing to lose if they turned me down. Okay, well, I didn't have the job before. I don't have the job now. So, but I've never applied to work with Google. No point in alt accounts when Google knows your phone number. Did you ever have orthodontia? I don't know what that is. I don't give companies my number. How do you get away with that? We've got a Kaczynski in the chat. Google says, give that man a job. Have you seen what he watches? Multiple burner phones. Okay, this might be getting into some weird territory here. I'm at the point where I sort of accept the powers that be. I don't have privacy. Like the right to privacy is an illusion. It's something they tell dumb people. It doesn't exist. Like every bad thing I've ever done is going to be exposed. Everyone's going to know about it. That's just like the truth. Like we can all wish it weren't the case and we can all cry about it or whatever, but I've just kind of like accepted it. And if anything, you should use it as an excuse to be a better person and to act the same in your private life as you do in your public life. Of course, the Greeks had their idea of the ring of Gyges as the right to privacy, the right of invisibility. It always produces antisocial, amoral behaviors. That Gingerade kombucha is good stuff. Yeah, I haven't actually had it. I think I should buy some kombucha. I think my abdominals for some reason are sore. I don't know why. Been having a lot of pain recently, but that's besides the point. Nobody cares. I don't even care. In this moment, I am pain-free because I am thinking cerebrally. I'm distracting myself, so everything is fine. If someone donated you limes, would you make a video talking about your personal ideological journey? I would certainly talk about my ideological journey. I've talked about it before. If you pay attention, I've talked about it in bits and pieces here and there, and you could piece it together. But yeah, I mean, the rate is what is 1,000? I would say 1,000 lemons per hour of content. So I say a minimum of 1,000 lemons for a video, and a video from me is usually 10, 20, 30, sometimes an hour. We're up to 50 minutes now. So that's like a standard video for me. If you want me to do like a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour, 5-part special, something like that, if you whatever, it's basically going to break down to 1,000 lemons per hour. If you're going to request that I talk about something that I don't organically want to talk about, just like, oh, today I think I will talk about my ideological journey, and I've explained before how it's like, if I make this YouTube video into just talking about myself and navel gazing, there's only so much I can talk about. Eventually it's going to get boring. So I've always strayed away from that. But yeah, that's the rate if you're serious. I won't, if people are serious, look, I think that the principle with Full Metal Alchemist, equivalent exchange, you give something to get something. I believe in that. So thinking about buying a new phone, new email, new computer, new skin, new body. What are your intentions name dropping Keith Woods? Are you trying to attract senpai or convert his followers? I just think he's a fun guy. I think he's a fun guy. The, like, politics is so degrading and annoying and disappointing of all the different people who come out, and it's like, I mean, I could go through the litany of the list. We all know, maybe we don't, but it's just like there's just so much to be disappointed in. Whereas with Keith Woods, he's just such an earnest, honest, like out there guy. Like he's like a breath of fresh air. He's like an Irish spring, you know. I can smell him through the screen, and I smell a fresh Irish spring, and I say, "Anya laddie, Anya laddie." So I think about Keith Woods in a friendly, platonic, nice way. I think about him and I say, man, if everyone could just be like Keith Woods, the world would be a better place. Of course, that's an exaggeration. Not everyone should be the same. We should have diversity of personality types, but it's like it's hard even when I disagree with him. It's hard not to like him, right? Like on the American imperialism stuff, we've covered that topic and I've been like, American imperialism is sort of necessary, and we have to go through Caesarism. Like you can't collapse Rome before its time has come. There's a historical process you need to go through. Rebelling against history is not something I support. Of course, that's another topic for another time, but like I genuinely have major disagreements with the guy, but he's just so likable. It's hard for me to. I would so much rather be friends with a guy like Keith Woods. Not that I am friends with him, but like not that I've ever had a conversation with him or anything, but I would rather be friendly, let's say, with a guy like Keith Woods, who I might disagree with on everything. Doesn't matter, but he's just like a nice person, and he's not vicious, and he doesn't have the he's just like a genuine, earnest, honest guy, and he's just like out there. It's like we need more of that. That's what I want to see, because he's someone who is not like, with so many of these people, I look at them and I'm like, well, I can't talk to this person because they burn down everything around them, or they, you know, anytime you associate with this person, they're just going to destroy everything. And I mean, I could bring up all the examples. This is not what this video is supposed to be, but I could bring up all the examples where it's like this person was, who is Nathan Damigo? You know, where is Nathan Damigo now? Has anyone been watching? Has anyone been paying attention? I've been paying attention, and I know where these people end up. And there's a cycle that they go through. Where is Jeff Scope? Where's Jeff Scope right now? You know, and we could list all these little minor and major figures throughout the history of the internet and the political fringe. But it's like, you know, people where you think they were okay, even they fooled you for a moment, and then they always turn out to be these highly destructive people. Keith was he just seems to buck the trend. He just seems, as such a cynical man I am, he just brings an optimistic twinkle to my eye. Not for ideological reasons, because of course I disagree there, but for almost on a personal level. There's something like, it gives you hope in humanity somehow. I don't know. Is it possible that you can disagree with somebody ideologically but feel inspired by them, like on a personal level, of like, here's someone who can attract an audience, is intelligent, and is also just a really genuine, authentic person? Is that possible, or am I going to be betrayed again? Is Keith Woods going to turn out to be like a Jack the Ripper or something? I don't know. To really subvert my expectations, you know, to just punish me for betraying my cynicism. But that's why I name drop Keith Woods, because he's on my mind. You know, I think of the Irish, I think of Joseph Biden, and I think of Keith Woods, and I think of St. Patrick's. I've done it like twice now. I think I've name dropped him twice. Brian, you're keeping track, you're keeping count, right? I name dropped him when I directly addressed him, because I thought he was a good example of anti-imperialism and I wanted him as a foil. Then I name dropped him in reference to a very Irish performance. I think those were reasonable. I don't think I've gone too far with it, but that is what it is. what should you do with your money? I have a few thousand in the bank, was going to invest, but now I'm uncertain where to put it. Well, the safest investment is a CD. You can look up that CD investment. That's, I mean, as far as I know, if you're looking to invest in a traditional like stocks, bonds, all those things, CD is what you want to look into. I would not invest in real estate at this moment. I think the real estate market's about to crash for reasons kind of related to coronavirus. But yeah, I think that that's not going to do well in the coming year. But again, I've been wrong before, so maybe it'll continue to rise. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure what you invest in. Invest in yourself, invest in your health, invest in your family, your friends, invest in your skills, invest in your education, invest in your physical strength, invest in your connections, invest in your networking, take calculated risks, spend your time not entertaining yourself on YouTube, not watching my videos. Put down the video for a moment and go call your grandma, and go call your grandpa, and go talk to your parents and reconnect with old friends and rekindle connections and make new connections, and just get into hobbies that you lost because now all you do is check your phone, and go back and meet people in the I know coronavirus, it's a bad time to do that, but in general, those are the things I would, in terms of investment, use your money to take a plane to go visit an old friend. There are so many opportunities out there that if you viewed these things as investments, and maybe that's a sociopathic way to think, and I apologize if so, if people take it that way, but it's like, in some ways, I think that if you have $1,000 and you're like, should I invest it in this company or that company? It's like, well, why don't you invest it in like going to meet somebody that you haven't seen in a really long time, and maybe nothing tangible will come out of it, but maybe something will, maybe a job opportunity, maybe some other weird, you never know, just sort of expanding your horizons in that way. That's what I would do with your money, or just keep it in cash, just keep it in the bank, or find some, I mean, even crypto is not doing too hot right now. Even gold's not doing that hot. So I don't know. People have suggested investing in like PPE companies. PPE is like face masks and hazmat suits and things like that. But yeah, it's difficult because there is inflation. So if you don't use it, you sort of lose it. But I don't know. Buy a Rolex. Okay. Wrong person to ask. Probably better to ask somebody who's wealthy. True. Yeah, it's bad. I give bad. I'm admitting I give bad advice because the advice I've given myself has been bad. Post-apocalyptic designer watch economy. I'm just asking for his opinion. Have you had braces or Invisalign? Interesting question. I'll have the Wuhan combo number 6. How about combo number 9? Extra bat, please and thank you. That was a funny meme that I don't think anyone cares about anymore, just because it's like, oh, it's silly bat soup. Oh, those Chinese are so silly. Of course they have a virus because they're like so silly, like eating bats all the time. And now you look at Italy, it's like, what are you? Where are your bats now, pasta eaters? The Chinese are having a laugh. They're like, you made fun of us for eating bats. But now look at you, you pasta people, you burger and fries people, like, where are you now? And we're over here in China, and we're still eating bats, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just a sciencey sounding name for Mike Muse techniques. Never used those techniques. No more porn. True, invest in no fap, no porn, whatever you can do to achieve that. View that as an investment, because it's hard to do. And most people who advocate it, frankly, don't necessarily achieve it 100%, but people should be moving in that direction. Some people, it's worse than others. Some people, it's like the porn thing, they learned it was bad and they just quit it, but they smoke cigarettes, right? And some people, it's like they learn porn is bad and they quit it, but they still smoke weed occasionally, even though they know that's bad. So it's like everybody does things they know are bad. That doesn't make it good. It doesn't, it's just the fact that everyone sort of does things, no one on this planet really has 100% control over their will or 100% willpower, whatever you call that. No one's like a perfect godlike being. And so, as a result, everyone to one degree or another does things they know is wrong, but that doesn't ever make that wrong thing right. It doesn't mean we should ever just say, oh, well, you're going to do something bad, so I guess that makes it okay. It's never okay. Bad things are never okay. By definition, they are bad. And so we should all strive, I think, not just with porn, but with everything, to cut out bad habits and to embrace good habits. But it is difficult, and it does require significant sacrifice and effort. Let's see. I feel safe because like 80% of my search history is worthless. Nerds started Google today. They're super capitalist. No one escapes the hand of capitalism. Your generation has been distracted with nonsense memes. Interesting. Nerds actually didn't start Google. The government started Google. So, do you have a Discord I can join? Okay. I have posted the Discord link previously, but I will take a look at it. Let's see if I can pull it up. I gotta log in. Give me a second. I gotta log in here. I gotta give it my credentials. Let's see. What's my credentials for this username and password? We gotta remember. All right, it's loading. I'm gonna pull up a link. Do a standard here. Let's see, do I still have an invite link? Yeah, this invite link is still good. So I posted this last time and it did not get used up. So there you go, Jolly. Kenneth doesn't appreciate us anymore, his adoring fans. Well, I don't know if you're adoring Brian. When you insult my guests and you insult me, I don't necessarily call that adoring. Is Arvel making an off-grid community? I don't think he embraces the term off-grid so much as alternative grid. He believes in grids. He believes in making a grid. He just doesn't want it to be controlled by, MAGA government. So that's his ultimate goal, and he's trying to move toward that. I've wanted to do an update with him. I've wanted to put together a stream with him, but it's been difficult. For a while I was the one being difficult with the scheduling, and now that I'm a little more available with him, he's getting busy, so it's tough to coordinate. But I'd like to get an update on where he's at, do a stream to that effect. Ken is a global technocrat. Strep throat for a few days, mucus leaking out of my eyes. It's not good. You're correct, and I'm dumb. You were going to say something bad about Keith? Nope. Excuse me, just came down with the flu. I'm getting my lemon's worth by slowly extracting Kenneth's information. Yeah. Assumed his Twitter was cringe or something. You were going to expose it. I don't really check his Twitter, to be honest with you. I don't know what his Twitter... I mean, I was going to do a video. Maybe I'll do this, where for 30 minutes straight, I just say the words based and cringe back to back in order to induce like a semantic satiation, because I think these words are just like bad. To me, it's like, it is, I would rather hear the words pee pee poo poo, like, I'd rather hear like baby talk, goo goo gaga. Like, that's the level. When someone says cringe to me, I'm like, okay, so you're a baby. So you don't have, so you're, nothing is going on right now. So you're on autopilot when you just say, oh, that is cringe. That is base. Like, no, that make an argument. Like, what do we mean? Is it self-destructive? Is it effective? Is it productive? Is it, what is it? Even like the word LARPing, I think, has some meaning to it. But when you say based and cringe, it's just so infantile, so puerile. I really wish people wouldn't use those words. Of course, I'm not going to stop that, but yeah, I don't know. I obviously disagree with the guy, but I've already explained my positions, my feelings about him. How much for your data? It depends on what the data is. Your boy is here. I see Kenneth has adopted my fashion techniques by sticking to the white tees. Yeah, that's typical for videos. I might wait a little while because of the market, but an index account with Vanguard is great for starting out. I don't know if I trust the chat's investment. Buy puts. I don't know what puts are. So invest in the S&P 500. That's what I was thinking. I don't know if it's worth trying to buying and selling individual stocks. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to back away from this conversation and say I have said my piece on it, and whatever people are saying in the chat, I probably disagree, but that's what is going on. How much money do you have to lose? 20K, I'd rather lose nothing. Scared money doesn't make money. Options that specifically puts are a strong bet for this market. So, are we talking about shorting the market right now? Because I'm not too. Again, I'm not very knowledgeable on the options and the puts. I just for the 6 years I've been like, I'm not going to even tempt myself by gaining financial knowledge because I don't want to be caught up in it. But that was obviously a mistake. But maybe now I'll be right. Maybe now the broken clock is right twice a day. When are you going to owe up to the fact that switching from Biden to Bloomberg was a grave miscalculation, poor judgment on your part? I agree with you, Chatsy. In the end, you were correct and I was wrong. And maybe we can do a video, an apology video, personally to Joe Biden for my betrayal. It'll be sad, but I'm gonna have to confess my sins. Real estate market is going to tank because of the millions about to be dead. I don't think that's true. Maybe for other reasons, but don't have time for all that. Well, what should I read to learn about stocks? The Intelligent Investor, Our Wall Street Bets, Emulate Strategies. My grandma refuses to listen to the minoritarian strategy, so Randy, don't insult grandmothers as a class. Can I just say, grandmothers as a class of people are sacred and valuable, and as a standard, we should not. I understand there's some bad grandmas out there, right? But grandmothers as a class of people, I think we need to. You can't joke about grandma. Like, grandma is sort of she is the idea. Even if your grandmother personally, and we're reaching the point now where people are going to have grandmothers who were baby boomers, who were hippies and orgies and whatever. So I'm not saying all grandmothers are good and pure, but I'm just saying as a class of people, as an ideal, the ideal of the babushka is a sacred ideal, and I don't like to joke meanly about grandmothers. So you're saying I should invest my money in Alex Jones supplements? Okay. Did you ban Big Mail? I think I did. Ken Brown said to me, "How many men would you have in your movement? 100,000 max." And I smiled and said, "The more, the better. It's a simple case of dividing into smaller units." I don't know what's going on. Invest in babies. There's an idea. Kenneth said he has 2 vices. What do you think it is? Did I say I have 2 vices? I probably have more than 2 vices. The real pressure release valve to substitute for these bad things is weightlifting and sauna. That's good advice. Side note, Kenneth is only similar to Nick when he's doing his jazz hands smartass gimmick, in that Fuentes is his alter ego. I thought when Fuentes got booted off YouTube, I thought people were going to stop comparing me to him because I don't see the comparison. But I guess I don't know. I feel like on some level, like, my audience is just a subset of his audience, and so people can't help but like, oh, you are also a person who talks online that I listen to, and you're like in the same zone, age, generational bracket or something, roughly, you're within like 10 years of each other, so you're basically the same person. Okay. Kenneth's vices are crystal and cross-dressing. You have caught me. But those are still bad, and I do not support them. I do not promote them. I don't talk about them because I don't want to, because when I was young, I had mentors that I looked up to, and they would brag about their vices, and they would say, yeah, I do this and that, and I don't care because I'm a man's man. A man does what a man does, and nobody can tell me what to do. And I was like, oh, I guess nothing really matters. And I felt that personally made me into a more cynical person. And cynicism is a self-defense mechanism, and it's not something that is actually entirely helpful at some level. So I don't want to do that. Some people, Brian says it's profanity and alcohol. It's all of those. It's all four of them. But again, I've just seen that as much as they try to say I'm not a perfect person, at the same time going to the opposite degree and like fanning all my dirty laundry and being like, here's all the terrible stuff I do. Again, what I've seen is that even if it's just one person who looks up to me, when I looked up to people when I was young and I saw them making excuses for their behavior, I felt that it made me like a less moral person, because I was like, oh, well, this person I respect says, it doesn't matter, so I guess we can just do whatever we want, and there's no such thing as morality. So that's my reasoning. Magic the Gathering and Yellow Fever. These are all vices, I think. Implying the government isn't comprised of nerds. Kenneth is not susceptible to vulgar vices. He's like the Joker. His vices are purely intellectual. He's too right, too big-brained. His sense of humor is too wicked. That's very generous. That's very generous. He was once... I can't read... I'm not going to read this comment because it's just not true, but... The things people say, it's incredible. I never insulted your guest. I don't care to go back and confirm or deny that. I have great respect. I make low-hanging jokes at your expense because I know you can take with your light-hearted humor. That's what you think. I'm actually a very sensitive person, and I keep grudges, and I'm very passive-aggressive. You would know that. You would know, if you really knew me, you would know I'm a very passive-aggressive person. Joel is a super genius, cool guy. There's a lot of meaning there. Joel has a why am I reading these? Joel is not here to defend himself. Why would I read things about Joel? I don't have a reason. We're in firing in sleepy hairline. Joel's poopy. I can tell you, Joel. Why are we bringing up Joel? Why are we talking about Joel? How did this happen? I'm going to skip all the Joel talk. This is not... Brad Pitt had a love child with Orlando Bloom. I am attracted to large skulls. Oh my goodness. This is something here. You want to enrage Arvel? Bring up... Why are we... Oh, man. Can I have a filter or something? Can I have a filter? I don't really want to trash talk a bunch of other people on the internet right now. That's not the purpose of this. You're trying to get me here. You're trying to get me. If you have money, just give it to me. I will use it and grow it for the Kenneth Empire. JK, but hey, if you want to invest, just research and study. Kenneth, please never ban me. I'm a good boy. Yeah, I've heard that one before, and then they were banned, and then I banned them. This has happened several times. So that phrase, I am a good boy, it pretty much 100% means that at some point in the future I will ban you. Why do people have to be weird? Why do people have to be weird? It's a grandmother or grandma. It's not grand mommies. Like, this is just weird. Why do people have to do this? The chat has really degenerated. My skull is massive. Successor to Kant, Schopenhauer, and Leibniz. Weightlifting and sauna can become vices. I love Cromwell's grandma too. Okay, I tried to say, like, let's be. I don't even have any rebuttal, because if I try to fight it, I just get dragged down into it. I just got to ignore it. I just got to continue on. Why are people so vicious on the internet? Where is the civility? Joe Biden will bring back civility. I'm tired of this malarkey. Where Europe comes from, well, etymologically it comes from Greek. I don't know exactly what you're asking there, Aeromonric Gudum. A man is what a man does. Very true. Breaking news, National Guard on high alert and New York under quarantine or martial law. Interesting. I don't know if that is true. How can it be a fake account if it's a real URL? Don't know what that means. Ken has spent $100,000 on Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Possibly. Oh, that reminds me, you mentioned the effect where you attribute good traits to people where you lack information. I tried to search for it, but nada. Can you please tell me the name? I don't know the name. It's just true. Just something I've observed. I'm an attack dog for anyone. They can become a vice by doing those things in excess. We need Ken to go undercover with Joel to get the real scoop. Ken, don't make fun of my vocabulary. Are Ken and Arvel the two witnesses laid on me? Okay, we're going to end the stream there. Thanks for all the drama posting. Thank you for your Isola posting. It's my favorite part. I am now going to ban... Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for all your participation. Have a wonderful night. Bye.